Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. This video may very well be the most important video about gang stalking, organized harassment, psychological operations, what have you, that you will ever hear in your life. Subscribe and share immediately. This is a vital video, like many videos I've been making recently, but this one's more to the point. Now, this is a rough draft. Even right now, I'm being fumed. And again, I have 23 witnesses or so on record. That's 23 witnesses or so on record. It is impossible to be sane and to say to somebody that they are crazy if they think something is occurring when they have 23 witnesses or so on record, and these people have not even tried to scrutinize my witnesses. And in anticipation of them doing so, I made most of them say, or at least a lot of them say, that if they change their story in the future, that they're lying in the future and not at the time of recording. So I said, hey, you have to say this. Okay, I didn't say, I didn't put a gun to the head, but you get what I'm saying. Okay. So first of all, moral law is greater than the law of the land, which is supposed to uphold my rights anyway. That's key. I'm not some kind of coward who argues that that's the law, and that's the law, and that's the law, like some kind of robot or something. Okay? Moral law is first and foremost my argument. Okay? Now, I have no plan to be violent at this time, but I'm willing to die for moral precision at any time. I have no plan to be violent at this time, but I'm willing to die for moral precision at any time. This is important because people might try to twist my words in this video. I'm not a terrorist. I don't believe in doing mass shootings, certainly not shooting up kindergarten and things like this. Okay, that's crazy. Okay? However, what I mean by mass shooting is, so this is why I don't like, this whole thing that, there's not a lot of people, I'd rather be making this speech live. And because of who I am in reality, that absolutely should be occurring with the whole world listening. Okay? What I'm saying is shooting people for no reason other than you're angry is not something I agree with. I'm not saying that if a community is poisoning you and fuming you, okay, that that is crazy to shoot them, to run upon them, a group of them, and shoot them. I'm not saying that. Okay, think about the Children of the Corn. Think about all the cult movies you've seen. Think about the zombie movies. If people acting like fucking monsters, okay, it is not crazy for someone to come to that conclusion. That's not something I'm going to do, but I will debate you anytime on that topic. Okay? If the Klan, for example, if you live in a Klan town and they've been harassing you and poisoning you, it's not crazy to run up on them, whether they're armed or not, and start laying them out like ducks. It's not crazy at all. Okay? These people define the terms of combat by covertly attacking you, and they have a long history of hanging people and teaming up on one person with guns and dogs. Okay? It's not crazy at all. Okay? Whether or not I agree with it or not, that's not crazy. Okay? All right, so let's get to this, shall we? 1. The timeline of the harassment campaign against me starts from the time I am a little child and becomes obvious by the time I am 30. Okay, so this harassment campaign started before 2011 when it became extremely obvious that the state, and not just groups of people and networks of hate groups and people who try to look better than other people who you wouldn't think were in a hate group, were harassing me. Because jocks and all this that went beyond the place that I was in, they were harassing me in a way that was clear that it was a type of people that harass you. It's like certain types of people, kind of community, city councils, kind of community watch people, kind of people come together and say, oh, I don't like that type of person. When that type of person comes around, we harass them in a certain spirit, way, manner, what have you. Okay? So it was clear to me when I was younger that was the American way, so to speak. That people get together as groups. Okay, the cop kind of knows, your neighbor or something. He knows the judge. He knows the mental health person. I knew this my whole life. I mean, it's freaking obvious. Okay, there's Freemasons. There's fraternities. There's they grew up together. They went on. They played ball together. You name it. There's no shortage of reasons why these people know each other, have similar sentiments, behaviors, and attitudes, and have decided to come together and say, people like us need to keep people like him down. I had no doubt in my mind. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. I was born in the early 80s. Okay? A little more than a decade after Martin Luther King was assassinated, I had no doubt in my mind, and I have no doubt in my mind that that's how things worked growing up, and then that's how things work now. These are like the children of the people who killed Martin Luther King and all those white people who hated him. Okay, they're my generation. I had no doubt in my mind. Okay, and then there's their parents. Okay, my dad was born like 1946 or something. If that puts it in perspective. Okay, so point number 2. To provoke someone with military grade psychology, so to speak. I mean psychology that goes beyond the average, person with a master's in psychology. With military grade, calculated, they've studied it for generations and they've refined it to make sure it's effective at provoking people to launch an attack earlier than they otherwise would, or to attack when they otherwise wouldn't. Okay, that's what I call military grade psychology. And there's something called military psychology, so it's fair enough of a phrase. To provoke someone with military grade psychology, so to speak, while covertly drugging them until they are angry and seem to act violent, is an intense violation of one's rights that transcends any claim the state may have to running the psychological operation in the first place. Okay? So when they're using military grade psychology to provoke you and they're covertly drugging you, they can't say, look at his behavior. That's why we're running a psychological operation. That is outrageous. That is fucking outrageous. And we look at it as a black person, it's so bad, just let me touch on this incidentally kind of idea for a moment, right? Incidentally, as a black person, they kind of do that anyway to some degree. Just in my case, they did it way more. Okay, if you're in the Klan and you don't like the average black guy down the street, you hate Martin Luther King. Okay, if you're a white Californian and or a racist Jew that likes to pretend you're chosen or the master race, you don't like the black brain surgeon from Africa and his namesake son. You just don't. And you probably have a police network, you probably have social clubs, you probably have governing class people helping you out. Everybody who is in my generation knows that. Everybody in my generation knows that. Okay. Anyway, if they have a viable counter-argument, so point number 3, if they have a viable counter-argument to my moral and legal arguments, why did they not present it? This means they have conceded that it is immoral and illegal to run a psychological operation against me and that they have violated my human rights and my constitutional rights. The Constitution is said to be the highest law in the land. Write that down. I was told the other day, some weeks ago or something, that the Constitution is not just something that the state's not supposed to violate, but it's specifically said to be the highest law in the land. That is the highest law. That is the law. All these racist cops talking about, that's the law. Okay, this is the highest law. And you have no right to break it when you propound the law. Point number 4. The racial components of the harassment campaign overkill that I am owed by the state and that they must stop immediately if they have any masculinity, femininity, decency, or sanity. To lose these things is far worse of a loss than to lose worldly power or life itself. If you're a male and you're not really a man, okay, you're better off dying a man than living not really a man. If you're a female, you're better off dying a woman than not living like a woman. You're better off having decency and dying for that decency and moral sanity and true sanity than you are living as a crazy, indecent, indecorous dog. Okay? An unprincipled worm. Point number 5. The best years of my life have passed, and I have been cheated and harassed all through them, and as a brain surgeon's son at that. Which means that I would have had a better life than the vast majority of people, at least using a secular scale. So someone's a brain surgeon's son, you're like, man, your dad's a brain surgeon. Wow, that's sure like rich, kind of thing. So the vast majority of Americans would have a less enjoyable life using their secular kind of capitalist scale. My intense moral cause makes it clear that I would have a better life than anyone that ever lived on top of that, and where it matters most, I have. And that's a story for another day. I threw that in there because I know it's true, but I'm going to say that might be the one subjective thing in this whole video, but it's not even subjective. If you really do your due diligence, you see that it must be true, and that takes a lot. I've made lots of videos about that. That's a story for another day. Okay, point number 6. I was harassed in Montessori preschool growing up by children who I've been told had military parents, right? So already when I was like 4 years old, 3 years old, or whatever it was, I was harassed by people whose parents were in the military, who had impressed upon them that sentiment of white supremacy. that makes Fort Hood seem like, the least racist base on the planet or something. Okay? At Cardin Elementary, growing up, I was racially harassed by someone who was obviously being groomed to be an athlete when they were older. At Webb School, I was racially harassed by classmates, and throughout all of this, I have displayed an admirable amount of self-control that goes far, far beyond what other people's brains are capable of. Other people folded big time when it comes to being a decent human being and telling the truth. Instead, they become sheep and go into political parties. That's what I'm getting at there, and it's pretty obvious that I'm right. There have been many incidents that fit the pattern of the military-grade psychological harassment that has occurred leading up to 2011, when it becomes crystal clear that the state and the mental health system were persecuting me because of my political beliefs. Crystal clear. In the years after that, I have made many videos and have gathered 23 witnesses or so on record to various aspects of my harassment. 23 witnesses. Again, I tell you, that was the third time in this video alone. 23 witnesses. So you can't say, well, this guy thinks this, and he thinks this, and you know for sure, unless you're an idiot. I have no reason to make this up. I have 23 witnesses on record, which means something is going on here. And I have videos where I show you I make police reports. I wrote letters to the Justice Department. I've even contacted Internal Affairs. Okay? No logical investigation is occurring. An investigation would show that there's something going on here. It would show that I'm being fumed and poisoned. There's substances that either I can identify in my bloodstream, or that they are unknown substances that the CIA and them are using. That would show up, no doubt. 7. Regardless of what the white, Jewish, and LGBT communities, their minority allies, and the political parties they are trying to, that they run are trying to do, so regardless of what they're trying to do, one's constitutional rights are supposed to come first. And to anyone with any sense, universal pinpointed moral precision is supposed to come before that. To somebody who's not some kind of state-run bootlicking robot, RoboCop, okay, what is actually right comes before Nazi Germany, communist Russia, or crony capitalist America, or communist North Korea, or China, or any country in the world, or anything else. So God is in moral precision. The Spirit of God is moral precision. So that comes first, even if you're agnostic. If you have any sense, you knows what is morally right comes before what is the law of the land. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. And you're not really a man, or if you're a female, you're not really a woman. Point number 8. I am not like the Capitol rioters or the mass shooters. I do not own any firearms. I have no recorded history of violence, and I do not advocate for violence, and only when provoked to the extreme have I had moments where I highlight the obvious. The obvious is the fact that if you live in an evil, hypocritical society that is abusing worldly and despicable mental health powers, that one has a divine and irrefutable right to fight back even if they must use violence. Here are several examples that I am sure everyone can agree on. Before I continue, let me highlight again how I started it. I tell you again, I have no plan to be violent this time. This is about showing how serious it is and about helping you understand the situation. So I make, let me just, because I only got a couple minutes left. So let me, I make a bunch of examples to make it clear that I'm right about that. So let's go down to D, the last of the examples, because we got to go over this cut up. I got 1 minute to go. So there's a bunch of words: food, feed, slaughter, fume, position, together, heal, and meal, and all have obvious applications and are called cut-ups. Food is faux do. Feed is feed. Slaughter is laughter, an anagram for laughters. Fume, F-U, me, or me, F-U, right? They're saying, fuck you, my position, and they're saying, fuck me and be my bitch, okay? That's part of why the obelisk is a phallic symbol in the D.C. and Notre Dame and so on and so forth. Position is a anagram for poisoning, okay? Together, to get her. Heal, he-lay, and meal, me-lay. So they say, hey, we're not going to give you good health care unless you have sex with me. We're not going to, let you recover unless you have sex. I'm not going to give you food, right? It's feed, feed-y, the dick, right? They say that's your feed. So uphold their sexual culture, and it's disgusting. So here we have the cut-up technique. Here's the references. Take a screenshot, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let me just shoot through this briefly. The cut-up technique is an aleatory literary technique in which a written text is cut up and rearranged, often at random, to create a new text. The technique can also be applied to other media, film, photography, audio recordings, etc. It was pioneered by Brian Gisson and William S. Burroughs. That is not entirely true. This is who they're crediting it to. Okay? It is, these words predate those guys. What are the odds that together is to get her, and pirate is rape and scrambled, if these guys who came way later are the ones that made the cut up idea. Okay, so I'm almost out of time. You can see why I'm right about that. This is from Wikipedia. Thank you.